the gold standard for classic games collections. With the releases of the all-new Shredder's Revenge, the Last Ronin graphic novel, and now the Cowabunga Collection, 2022 will go down in history as the most exciting year for TMNT fans since the release of the 1990 live-action movie. Konami's Cowabunga Collection is a near-perfect revival of over 13 classic Ninja Turtles games that span the arcade, NES, Game Boy, Genesis, and Super Nintendo platforms. For those of us who grew up in the 80s, there isn't a single childhood-defining game missing from this collection. Each title has been lovingly crafted with all the typical retro collection quality of life features and then some. Screen filters, save states, and rewind options are all present and accounted for. The standout feature is a unique auto mode where the game plays itself until you decide to jump in and take the controls. Throw in the ability to fast forward, and the autoplay mode serves as a living strategy guide and stage select, all rolled into one. Trust me, this feature is more fascinating and useful than it sounds. Multiplayer for applicable games remains intact, and online play has been added for a diverse set of 4. The 2 TMNT arcade games, Hyperstone Heist and Tournament Fighters, the vastly superior SNES version, thankfully. Some gamers might be disappointed that not all the multiplayer games are playable online, and that's understandable. Everyone has their favorites, and it would have been nice to relive the good old days with childhood friends who are no longer close enough to drop by for couch co-op sessions. When it comes to bonus features, the Turtles Lair Art Collection goes above and beyond, featuring not only the obligatory behind-the-scenes artwork, but also box art and instruction manuals, classic advertisements, and iconic comic book covers. However, the most practical part of the collection are the mini strategy guides written from scratch, and they are exclusively for this collection, complete with interactive video content. When it comes to flaws, the Cowabunga Collection only has a few anchovies on top its proverbial pizza. Let's face it, some of the older, lower fidelity games won't earn new fans. However, nostalgia hounds like me will be grateful to have them, if only for brief retreats into our childhood and the fond multiplayer memories that we've associated with these games. Arguably, the original TMNT arcade game, the arcade and SNES versions of Turtle in Time, Hyperstone Heist on the Genesis, and the SNES version of Tournament Fighters, and all the bonus content are enough to justify the game's price tag. The remaining games are icing on the nostalgia-filled cake. I experienced a few bugs with some of the Turtles Lair content. Blurred out strategy guides that need to be reloaded, for example. Additionally, the UI, particularly the options menus, could have been arranged in a more consolidated and efficient manner. But seriously, you have to dig deep to find any real flaws with this collection of classics. This is the finest classic compilation I've experienced in years. A true high watermark for future collections to aspire to. If you are a Turtles fan in the slightest, especially if you're in your late 30s to early 40s, you owe it to yourself to pick this game up and ensure that its historic content never slips from your grasp again. We're going to give TMNT, the Cowabunga Collection, a 9 out of 10. This review, of course, was written by the illustrious Anton G. and spoke to the public by yours truly, Mike Will. However, these next thoughts are my own and come from some additional research. We call this the Addendum. Anyway, so in the Addendum, what we are going to talk about is some of the, I'm not going to say faults with the game, but I want to let you guys know, if you're hardcore Turtles fans, there are a few things you should keep in mind. Firstly, and this is super nitpicky, and when I say Turtles fans, most people that casually play these games will not care about this as much, but the original Turtles arcade game actually had a completely different score than what was selected here. And honestly, they kind of did a cover of the score, and it sounds fine. You can hear it for yourself. I'm not going to play any of that music. I'm only playing music from the trailers, really. And I do have some clips, and I'm kind of worried about those, but we're going to play it very low and just hope, I don't know. But, you know, that's the problem, is that this copyright, the person that owns this wants to be paid, and I understand, but, you know, he's taken away this original song, which it isn't that big of a deal, guys, though, honestly. The next one is a larger deal. The online play just isn't that good. I've tested it extensively. Now, the local co-op is great. I played that with my buddy Fred. Shouts to Fred. He visited. We did some videos. But he played that with me, and it was great one-on-one in person. I mean, it's very flawless. When you get online, it's a completely different story, and that's to be expected given it's a 2D game. Most 2D games online don't play very well, and I believe it's because they're using the original, not the original source code, but the emulation. So technically the original source code, they aren't using that. They're emulating it and then trying to make it multiplayer, which, if they coded it from the bottom up, see Shredder's Revenge. If you guys have played Shredder's Revenge online, it has had its own problems, but it's largely a much better experience because it's a modern game designed from the ground up. Another interesting factor is they did include rollback netcode for TMNT tournament fighters, both the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo versions, which, they really didn't need to do both, but I did test it, and yes, it is better than the other TMNT games that are online in the collection, but for being something that should really be excellent online, it's just not, and it comes back to that being an emulated game. You put rollback netcode in an emulated game, it's still not going to perform like something that you built from the ground up. But what did you think of our review? Let me know in the comments below, and I hope y'all having a great day.